The Valkyrie had ruled the stars for 15,000 years. They had crushed 347 species. They had burned worlds and stolen resources. They had never lost a war. Not once. Their ships were the most powerful in the galaxy. Their soldiers were the most feared. When they found a new species, they did not negotiate. They did not ask questions. They simply destroyed. Admiral Thixixorn stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest. His gray skin was smooth and cold. His 4 eyes watched the blue planet on the main screen. Earth. The humans called it Earth. His scouts had studied these creatures for months. They lived in separate nations. They fought each other over land and resources. They had primitive nuclear weapons and simple spacecraft that could barely reach their own moon. Pathetic, Thixorn said to his second-in-command. They have not even united as a species. This will take less than a day. The cleansing fleet consisted of 12 dreadnoughts. Each ship was 5 kilometers long. Each ship carried enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. For most species, 1 dreadnought was enough. Thixorn had brought 12 because he was bored and wanted to finish quickly. Begin the cleansing, he ordered. The first kinetic strikes hit New York, Beijing, Moscow, and London at the same time. Massive metal rods fell from orbit at incredible speed. They hit the ground with the force of nuclear bombs but left no radiation. Buildings turned to dust. Millions died in seconds. The humans had no warning. Their satellites saw the Valkyrie fleet too late. Their governments had no time to respond. More strikes followed. Tokyo, Paris, Mumbai, Sydney, Cairo. One by one, the great cities of Earth burned. Thixorn watched the destruction with cold satisfaction. The humans tried to fight back. They launched their nuclear missiles. Thixorn almost laughed. The warheads exploded harmlessly against Valkyrie's shields. It was like throwing rocks at a mountain. Their military bases are responding, an officer reported. They are launching aircraft and mobilizing ground forces. How amusing, Thixorn said. Destroy them. Plasma beams rained down from orbit. Military bases vanished in green fire. Aircraft fell from the sky. Ships sank in the oceans. The humans fought bravely, Thixorn admitted to himself. They did not surrender. They did not beg. They kept fighting even when there was no hope. But bravery meant nothing against superior technology. Within 6 hours, 8 billion humans were dead. The survivors hid in ruins and caves and underground shelters. Cleansing complete, an officer announced. Species 348 has been neutralized. The planet is ready for resource extraction. Thixorn nodded. Another species erased. Another world conquered. He felt nothing. This was simply what the Valkyrie did. They were the masters of the galaxy. All other species existed only to serve them or die. Send the occupation force, he ordered. Begin harvesting the planet's minerals. I want a full report within 1 cycle. He turned away from the screen. Earth was no longer interesting to him. It was just another dead world. Just another number in the long list of Valkyrie victories. He went to his quarters to rest. He did not notice the strange energy readings deep beneath the planet's surface. His sensors dismissed them as geological activity. His officers did not think they were important. This was their first mistake. Deep beneath the Swiss Alps, in a bunker designed to survive the end of the world, a group of humans watched the destruction above. President Sarah Chen was among them. Her face was pale. Her hands were shaking. She had just watched her species nearly go extinct. But she was not crying. Her eyes were hard and cold. How many survived? She asked. Approximately 200 million, a general replied. Scattered across all continents. The enemy is deploying ground forces to hunt them down. 200 million. Out of 8 billion. Sarah felt sick, but she forced herself to focus. Grief could come later. Right now, she had to save what was left of humanity. Activate Protocol Lazarus, she said. The room went silent. Everyone knew what that meant. Protocol Lazarus was humanity's darkest secret. It had been created over 70 years ago, after a crashed alien probe revealed that life existed beyond Earth. The governments of the world had realized the truth. They were not alone, and they were not safe. So they had prepared. Quietly, secretly. They had built hidden bases on the Moon and Mars. They had constructed a secret fleet in the asteroid belt. They had developed weapons that no enemy would expect. Are you sure? The general asked. Once we activate it, there is no going back. They killed 8 billion of our people, Sarah said. Her voice was steady now. There is already no going back. Send the signal. Wake the sleepers, the general nodded. He entered a code into a secure terminal. A message traveled across the solar system at the speed of light. It reached the moon in 1.3 seconds. It reached Mars in 12 minutes. It reached the asteroid belt in 25 minutes. All across the solar system, hidden installations received the signal. Lights turned on in dark places. Machines that had been sleeping for decades began to wake. Ships that no one knew existed powered up their engines. Far above Earth, Admiral Thyxorn slept peacefully in his quarters. He dreamed of future conquests. He did not know that he had just made the worst mistake in Velkari history. He had attacked humanity. He had killed their families, burned their cities, and destroyed their world. And humanity did not forgive. In the ruins of Houston, a dying general held a quantum communicator in his bloody hands. With his last breath, he whispered a message that would change the galaxy forever. Wake the sleepers. Begin the counteroffensive. Make them pay. Then he closed his eyes and died with a smile on his face. Because he knew the truth. The Velkari thought they had won. They thought humanity was finished. They had no idea what was coming. The moon had always looked peaceful from Earth, a silent white circle in the night sky. Poets wrote about it. Lovers gazed at it. Children made wishes on it. But behind that peaceful face, on the dark side that Earth never saw, something incredible was hidden. Luna Base 7 was the largest human installation off Earth. It stretched for 50 kilometers beneath the lunar surface. Shipyards, factories, weapons laboratories, training facilities. For 70 years, the best engineers and scientists from every nation had worked here in secret. They had one mission: prepare humanity for the day when the aliens came. That day had arrived. Admiral Chen Wei-Lin opened her eyes inside a survival pod. Emergency lights flashed red around her. Her body ached. Her head was pounding. The last thing she remembered was the bombardment of Beijing. Fire falling from the sky. Buildings collapsing. People screaming. Then darkness. Admiral Chen, a voice said. You are safe. You are on Luna Base 7. We evacuated you 6 hours ago. Wei-Lin sat up slowly. A young officer stood before her. His uniform was wrinkled. His eyes were red from crying, but he stood straight and saluted. Report, Wei-Lin said. Her voice was rough. Earth has fallen, Admiral. 8 billion dead. 200 million survivors. The Velkari have established an occupation force. They are hunting the remaining humans. Wei-Lin closed her eyes for a moment. 8 billion. Her parents were in Beijing. Her sister was in Shanghai. Her nieces and nephews. All gone. She wanted to scream. She wanted to cry. But she was a soldier. She had a duty. The dead could not be saved. But the living still needed her. What is the status of the Black Fleet? She asked. The officer's eyes lit up with something like hope. Fully operational, Admiral. 327 vessels. All crews are ready. We have been waiting for this moment. The Black Fleet. Humanity's secret weapon. For decades, the world's governments had secretly sent resources to the moon and the asteroid belt. They had built ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Not copies of alien technology, but something new. Something human. Ships designed for one purpose: to fight an enemy with superior numbers and superior technology. Wei-Lin stood up. Her legs were weak, but she forced herself to walk. Take me to the command center. The command center was a massive room filled with screens and officers. Everyone turned when Wei-Lin entered. She saw fear in their eyes, but also determination. These were the survivors, the ones who had trained their whole lives for this war. They had watched their planet burn. Now they wanted revenge. Show me our assets, Wei-Lin ordered. A holographic display appeared. The solar system floated before her. Green dots marked human installations. Luna Base 7, the shipyards on Titan, the weapons platforms hidden in the asteroid belt, the research stations on Mars, and scattered among them, the ships of the Black Fleet. The enemy does not know we exist, an officer explained. They detected some energy readings, but they classified them as natural phenomena. They think humanity's only spacecraft were the primitive rockets on Earth. Wei-Lin smiled coldly. The Velkari were arrogant. They had conquered so many species that they had stopped taking their enemies seriously. They expected humanity to behave like all the others, to hide, to surrender, to die quietly. They did not understand humans at all. "What about Earth?" she asked. "What are the survivors doing?" Another screen activated. It showed scattered reports from the surface, resistance cells forming in the ruins, survivors gathering weapons, captured Velkari soldiers being interrogated. Wei Lin felt a fierce pride. Even with their cities destroyed and their families dead, humans were fighting back. With rocks and sticks if necessary. They would never stop. "The resistance has captured several enemy soldiers," an officer reported. "They are sending us data on Velkari technology, neural implants, shield frequencies, weapons systems. Send everything to our scientists," Wei Lin ordered. "I want our people studying that technology immediately. Learn how it works, find its weaknesses." Over the following weeks, humanity began to rebuild in secret. On the moon, engineers worked day and night to upgrade the Black Fleet. They took Velkari technology and made it better. The aliens had grown lazy over thousands of years of easy victories. Their technology worked, but it was not efficient. Human engineers, desperate and creative, found ways to improve everything. On Earth, the resistance grew stronger. They used guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run attacks. They destroyed supply convoys and ambushed patrols. They could not defeat the Velkari in open battle, but they made the occupation painful and expensive. Admiral Thixorn received reports of increasing human resistance. He was annoyed but not worried. "They are like insects," he told his officers. "Irritating but harmless. Increase patrols. Kill anyone who resists." He did not understand what he was facing. He had conquered species that surrendered after losing their homeworld. He had never fought an enemy like humanity. An enemy that did not know how to give up. An enemy that grew stronger with every defeat. An enemy that had been preparing for this war for 70 years. In her command center on the moon, Admiral Wei Lin watched the progress reports. The Black Fleet was almost ready. The weapons platforms were online. The resistance on Earth had drawn thousands of Velkari soldiers into endless urban warfare, weakening their orbital presence. "How long until we are ready?" she asked. "3 more weeks, Admiral. Then we can begin." Wei Lin nodded. She looked at a photograph on her desk. Her family, her parents, her sister and her children, all dead now, all killed by creatures who saw humanity as nothing more than insects to be crushed. 3 weeks, she whispered. "Then we show them what insects can do." She turned to her officers. "Send a message to all commands. Prepare for Operation Resurrection. In 3 weeks, we take back our world." In 3 weeks, the Velkari would learn a lesson that every species in the galaxy would remember forever. Never, ever, underestimate humanity. The sleepers had awakened, and they were very, very angry. The counteroffensive did not begin with weapons. It began with words. Every Velkari ship, every communication device, every screen on every occupied world suddenly showed the same image. A human woman. Her face was covered in burn scars. One eye was missing. Her remaining eye stared into the camera with cold fury. She spoke in perfect Velkari. Her accent was flawless. She had learned their language from captured soldiers. She had practiced for weeks. Now, she delivered humanity's message to the galaxy. "My name is Commander Elena Vasquez. 3 months ago, your species attacked our world without warning. You killed 8 billion innocent people. You burned our cities. You murdered our children. You thought we would die quietly like the others. You were wrong." Admiral Thixorn watched the transmission from his flagship. His 4 eyes were wide with shock. How was this possible? How could these primitive creatures access Velkari communication systems? "We are not like the other species you have conquered," Elena continued. "We do not surrender. We do not forget. And we do not forgive. You wanted a war. Now you have one." The transmission ended. For a moment, there was silence on the Velkari flagship. Then alarms started screaming. "Admiral!" an officer shouted. "Multiple contacts emerging from behind the moon. Hundreds of ships. They are attacking." The Black Fleet had revealed itself. 327 human warships emerged from hiding and charged toward the Velkari occupation force. They were smaller than the Velkari dreadnoughts. They looked crude and primitive. But they moved with impossible speed, changing direction in ways that should have torn their crews apart. The human ships had artificial gravity systems stolen from captured Velkari technology, but human engineers had improved them. They had removed the safety limits. Human pilots could now perform maneuvers that would kill any Velkari crew. They flew like demons, spinning and diving and weaving through enemy fire. "Fire all weapons," Thixorn commanded. "Destroy them." The Velkari dreadnoughts opened fire. Plasma beams and missiles filled the space between the two fleets. But the human ships were too fast. They dodged and weaved through the attack, and then they fired back. The Velkari had never seen weapons like these. Human engineers had studied captured alien technology and combined it with human creativity. The results were terrifying. Nanite swarms, clouds of microscopic machines, ate through Velkari armor like acid. Gravity bombs created miniature black holes that crushed ships into balls of metal. Missiles carried antimatter warheads programmed to match Velkari's shield frequencies, passing through their defenses like they did not exist. The first Velkari dreadnought exploded 15 minutes into the battle. Then the second. Then the third. Admiral Thixorn watched in horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart. "This is impossible," he whispered. "We are the Velkari. We have never lost a battle." But they were losing now. Human pilots flew suicide attacks, crashing into enemy ships at incredible speeds. But they were not suicide attacks. Escape pods launched milliseconds before impact, carrying the pilots to safety. The pods were so small that Velkari sensors could not track them. To the Velkari, it seemed like the humans were sacrificing themselves endlessly, without fear, without hesitation. On Earth, the Resistance launched coordinated attacks at the same moment. Velkari soldiers found themselves ambushed on every continent. The humans used improvised weapons, captured equipment, and sheer determination. They fought in the ruins of their cities, in the mountains, in the forests, in the deserts. They fought like animals. They fought like demons. They fought like humans. Admiral Wei Lin commanded the battle from a ship called the Resurrection. She watched the tactical display with cold satisfaction. The plan was working perfectly. The Velkari were strong in direct combat, but they had never faced an enemy who fought like this. An enemy who used deception and creativity. An enemy who turned their own technology against them. "Admiral," an officer reported, "enemy flagship is attempting to retreat." Wei Lin smiled. "Do not let them escape. I want Thixorn alive." 30 human ships surrounded the Eternal Conquest. They disabled its engines with precision strikes. They destroyed its weapons with surgical attacks. The mighty flagship, 5 kilometers of Velkari death and destruction, floated helpless in space. On the bridge, Admiral Thixorn stared at the screens in disbelief. His fleet was destroyed. His soldiers on Earth were being slaughtered. Everything he had believed about the Velkari was crumbling around him. A communication request appeared. Human origin. Thixorn accepted it with trembling hands. Admiral Wei Lin's face appeared on his screen. She was calm, professional. Her eyes were empty of mercy. "Admiral Thixorn," she said, "your fleet is destroyed. Your occupation force is being eliminated. You have lost." Thixorn tried to speak, but no words came out. He had conquered dozens of species. He had never imagined this moment. He had never planned for defeat. "You will be taken prisoner," Wei Lin continued. "You will tell us everything about the Velkari Dominion, the location of your homeworld, the strength of your military, the positions of your other fleets. You will cooperate fully. And if I refuse?" Thixorn managed to ask. Wei Lin's expression did not change. "Then I will give you to the survivors on Earth, the families of the 8 billion you murdered. I am sure they will have questions for you." Thixorn went pale. He had seen what the human resistance did to captured soldiers. The interrogations. The revenge. These creatures were not civilized. They were monsters wearing the faces of intelligent beings. "I will cooperate," he said quietly. Wei Lin nodded. "A wise choice. Prepare for boarding." She ended the transmission and turned to her crew. "Send a message to all human forces. Earth is free. The Velkari occupation has ended." Cheers erupted across the fleet. On Earth, survivors emerged from hiding and looked up at the sky. They saw Velkari ships burning like falling stars. They wept. They laughed. They held each other. But Admiral Wei Lin did not celebrate. She looked at the stars with cold determination. Earth was free, but the war was not over. The Velkari Dominion was still out there. Thousands of ships, hundreds of conquered worlds. They would come back with a larger fleet. They would try again, unless humanity struck first. Set course for Velkari space, she ordered. The counteroffensive has just begun. The journey to Velkari space took 3 months. 3 months of flying through the darkness between stars. 3 months of preparation. 3 months of planning revenge. Admiral Wei Lin used the time well. Captured Velkari officers, including Admiral Thixorn, provided detailed information about the Dominion. Star maps, fleet positions, political structures, military weaknesses. The humans learned everything they could about their enemy. The picture that emerged was both terrifying and encouraging. The Velkari Dominion controlled over 2,000 star systems. They had millions of warships. Their military was the largest in the known galaxy, but they were also arrogant and overconfident. They had not faced a real enemy in thousands of years. They had grown soft and lazy. More importantly, the Velkari had made many enemies. Hundreds of conquered species lived under their rule. They were slaves, forced to work in mines and factories, treated like animals. They hated the Velkari with a burning passion. They were waiting for a chance to rebel. "We will give them that chance," Wei Lin told her officers. The Human Expeditionary Force, that was the official name, now consisted of the surviving Black Fleet, plus newly built ships from the lunar shipyards. 400 vessels in total. It was a tiny force compared to the Velkari Dominion. But size was not everything. As the human fleet traveled through space, they encountered other species for the first time. A Velkari cargo ship tried to intercept them. The humans destroyed it and rescued the slaves aboard a species called the Thornaki, insect-like creatures with 6 legs and compound eyes. The Thornaki were terrified at first. They expected the humans to be just like the Velkari, but Wei Lin treated them with respect. She gave them food and medical care. She asked for nothing in return. "Why?" the Thornaki leader asked through a translator. "Why do you help us? What do you want?" "We want the same thing you want," Wei Lin replied. "Freedom, justice, the end of the Velkari Dominion." The Thornaki stared at her with their strange eyes. Then, slowly, they knelt before her. It was a sign of loyalty in their culture. The first alien species had joined humanity's war. Word spread quickly through the conquered territories. A new species had appeared. They had defeated a Velkari cleansing fleet. They treated other species with kindness. They were coming to destroy the Dominion. At first, no one believed it. The Velkari were too powerful. No one could defeat them. But then more stories came. Human ships rescuing slave transports. Human soldiers freeing prison colonies. Human commanders sharing food and medicine with starving populations. The stories grew and spread like fire. By the time the Human Expeditionary Force reached the border of Velkari core territory, they were no longer alone. 37 different species had sent ships to join them. Former slaves, resistance fighters, freedom seekers. They came in vessels of every shape and size. Most were old and poorly armed, but their crews were determined. For the first time in millennia, someone was standing up to the Velkari. They wanted to be part of it. The Velkari High Council watched these developments with growing alarm. At first, they had dismissed the reports from Earth as exaggerations. A minor setback. Nothing more. But as the human fleet grew larger and came closer, they began to understand the danger. "We must destroy them now," Supreme Commander Zirvax told the Council. "Before they reach our core systems, before more slaves join their rebellion." The Council agreed. They assembled the Grand Armada, 4,000 of the most powerful warships in the Dominion. It was the largest fleet in Velkari history. Enough firepower to destroy a dozen civilizations. They sent it to intercept the humans at the edge of the Velkari home system. Admiral Wei Lin received intelligence about the Grand Armada. 4,000 ships. She had less than 600, including her alien allies. The numbers were hopeless. Any rational commander would retreat. Wei Lin smiled. "They are coming to us," she told her officers. "Good. That saves us time." She called a meeting of all fleet commanders, human and alien alike. They gathered in the Resurrection's conference room, a mixture of species that had never stood together before. Wei Lin looked at each of them. Humans scarred by war, Thornaki with their strange eyes, reptilian Cressians, crystalline Shardborn, all united by a common enemy. In 3 days, we will face the Grand Armada, she said. They have 4,000 ships. We have 600. By any normal calculation, we cannot win. She paused. The room was silent. But we are not going to fight a normal battle. Wei Lin activated a holographic display. It showed a weapon unlike anything they had seen before. A massive device, built in secret over the past 3 months, hidden in the cargo bay of a specially modified ship. This is the Prometheus device, Wei Lin explained. It takes the energy of a star and focuses it into a directed beam. One shot can destroy an entire fleet. One shot can burn a planet's surface clean. The alien commanders stared in shock. Even the humans looked disturbed. This was not just a weapon. It was extinction in a metal shell. We will use this once, Wei Lin said firmly. Against Valkyrie Prime, their homeworld, the heart of their empire. When it falls, the Dominion will collapse. The slaves will rise up. The conquered species will be free. A Cressian commander raised his hand. What about the Grand Armada? How do we get past 4,000 ships? Wei Lin's smile grew colder. We do not need to destroy them all. We just need to break through. Our fleet will engage the Armada and create an opening. One ship, the Prometheus carrier, will slip through and reach their sun. Once the device activates, the battle will be over. Many of us will die. Another commander said quietly. Yes, Wei Lin agreed. Many of us will die. But if we succeed, trillions of beings across the galaxy will be free. Our children will grow up in a universe without the Valkyrie Dominion. Is that not worth dying for? Silence. Then, one by one, every commander in the room nodded. Then let us prepare, Wei Lin said. In 3 days, we end this war. As the commanders filed out, Wei Lin stood alone before the holographic display. She looked at the Prometheus device. She thought about the power it contained, the destruction it could cause. For a moment, she felt doubt. Was she any better than the Valkyrie? Was she becoming the monster she was fighting? Then she remembered Earth, the burning cities, the 8 billion dead. Her family. No, this was justice. The Valkyrie had shown humanity no mercy. They deserved none in return. Prometheus, she whispered, the god who stole fire from heaven and gave it to humans. Now we will show them what humans do with fire. She turned off the display and went to prepare for the final battle. The Grand Armada stretched across space like a wall of death. 4,000 warships, arranged in perfect formation. Waiting for the enemy, every ship was polished and gleaming. Every crew was confident of victory. The Valkyrie had never lost a major battle. They were not worried about losing this one. Supreme Commander Zirvax stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Divine Judgment. He was the greatest military leader in Valkyrie history. He had crushed rebellions on 100 worlds. He had led the conquest of entire civilizations. Now he would add humanity to his list of victories. The enemy fleet is approaching, an officer reported. 600 ships, various species, mostly human. Zirvax made a sound of contempt. 600 against 4,000. These creatures were not brave. They were insane. Let them come, he ordered. We will destroy them all and end this foolish rebellion. On the resurrection, Admiral Wei Lin watched the Valkyrie formation on her tactical display. The enemy was confident. They had arranged their ships in a traditional defensive pattern, designed to maximize firepower. It was textbook strategy, perfect by Valkyrie standards. But humans did not fight by the textbook. All ships, Wei Lin announced, execute Operation Broken Arrow. For Earth. For the fallen. For humanity. The human fleet did not attack in formation. They scattered like leaves in a storm, each ship following its own unpredictable path. The Valkyrie gunners tried to track them, but there were too many targets moving too fast in too many directions. The first wave of human ships were sacrificial. Old vessels, automated drones, hulks filled with explosives. They crashed into the Valkyrie formation, creating chaos and confusion. Shields flared, ships exploded. The perfect Valkyrie formation began to break apart. What are they doing? Zirvax demanded. This is madness. It was madness. Human madness. The madness of a species that had been pushed too far and had nothing left to lose. The second wave followed immediately. Real warships now, crewed by humans and their allies. They dove into the gaps created by the first wave, firing in all directions. The battle became a storm of light and fire. Ships twisted and turned around each other. Missiles and plasma beams filled the darkness. The Velkhari had superior numbers. They had superior firepower. But humans had something else. They had rage. They had creativity. They had 10,000 years of evolution as the most dangerous predators on their planet. Every human pilot flew like death itself, taking impossible risks, making impossible shots. Zirvax watched his fleet begin to crumble. Ships that had survived 100 battles exploded under human attacks. Crews that had never known fear were screaming in panic. The Grand Armada, the pride of the Velkhari Empire, was being torn apart. Impossible, he whispered. This is impossible. In the chaos of battle, no one noticed a single ship slipping through the Velkhari lines. The Prometheus carrier was painted black. It had no weapons, no shields, nothing that would attract attention. Its pilot was Lieutenant James Chen, no relation to the Admiral, a young man from what used to be Singapore. His entire family had died in the bombardment. He had volunteered for this mission without hesitation. I am through the lines, he reported calmly, proceeding to target. Acknowledged, Waylin replied. Her voice was steady, but her heart was pounding. Good luck, Lieutenant. I do not need luck, Admiral. I have Prometheus. The carrier flew toward the Velkhari sun. It was a yellow star, similar to Earth's sun. Orbiting it was Velkhari Prime, the homeworld of the Dominion, a planet of 10 billion people, cities that stretched from horizon to horizon, monuments to 15,000 years of conquest. Lieutenant Chen armed the Prometheus device. Warning lights flashed across his console. The device began to draw power, preparing for a single, devastating shot. On the battlefield, the fight continued. Hundreds of ships had been destroyed on both sides. The human fleet was shrinking, but so was the Velkhari Armada. Admiral Waylin fought from the Bridge of the Resurrection, directing ships, coordinating attacks, refusing to give up. Admiral, an officer shouted. The Prometheus carrier has reached firing position. Waylin took a deep breath. This was the moment. Everything they had fought for came down to this. Lieutenant Chen, she said, you are authorized to fire. Yes, Admiral. Firing now. This is for Earth. The Prometheus device activated. It was not a beam of light. It was something worse. It reached into the Velkhari sun and twisted. The star seemed to shudder. Then a tongue of fire erupted from its surface, a solar flare of impossible size and perfect direction. The flare swept across Velkhari Prime like the breath of an angry god. Orbital stations vaporized. Defense platforms melted. The planet's atmosphere itself caught fire. Cities that had stood for millennia burned in seconds. 10 billion Velkhari died before they could understand what was happening. Lieutenant Chen's carrier was caught in the edge of the flare. He did not try to escape. He sat in his pilot's chair, watching the fire approach, thinking of his family. I am coming home, he whispered. Then there was light. On the battlefield, every Velkhari ship received the same transmission. Velkhari Prime was gone. Their homeworld was destroyed. Their civilization was burning. The effect was immediate. Velkhari crews stopped fighting. Some surrendered. Some fled. Some simply sat in shock, unable to comprehend what had happened. The Grand Armada, the most powerful fleet in the galaxy, collapsed in minutes. Supreme Commander Zirvax stared at his screen in disbelief. The sensors showed nothing but fire where Velkhari Prime had been. Everything he had known, everything he had fought for, everything his species had built over 15,000 years gone. A communication request appeared. Human origin. He accepted it with numb hands. Admiral Waylin appeared on his screen. Her face was tired but triumphant. Supreme Commander, your homeworld has been destroyed. Your fleet is broken. The Velkhari Dominion is finished. You monsters, Zirvax whispered. You murdered an entire world. Billions of innocent people. Waylin's expression did not change. You killed 8 billion of our people without warning. You have destroyed hundreds of species across the galaxy. You showed no mercy to anyone. Now you understand how it feels. She leaned closer to the camera. This is the lesson you will teach the galaxy. This is what happens when you attack humanity. We do not just fight back. We make sure no one ever threatens us again. Zirvax had no words. He had spent his life believing the Velkari were superior to all other species. Now he knew the truth. There was something in the universe more dangerous than the Velkari, something that had slept on a small blue planet, waiting to be awakened. What happens now? He asked quietly. Now you surrender, Weylin said. All your fleets, all your territories, every species you enslaved goes free. The Velkari dominion is over. Whatever comes next is up to you. She ended the transmission. The war was over. The dominion fell within weeks. Slave rebellions erupted across former Velkari territory. Conquered species declared independence. The empire that had ruled the galaxy for 15,000 years crumbled into dust, and humanity took its place among the stars. Not as conquerors, not as tyrants, but as something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that protected the weak, punished the cruel, and never, ever forgot. Centuries later, alien children would ask their parents about the humans. The answer was always the same. Be polite, little one. Be respectful, because humans remember everything, and they always pay their debts good and bad. In the end, the Velkari had been right about one thing. Humanity was different from other species, but not because they were weak or primitive, because they were human, and that made all the difference.